Yakadoodle. Well, Yakadoodle. Let me get this. Yeah. There we go. Yakadoodle. Uh, uh, uh. So it is important to do the things that you love. I love to do this. This is my exercise program. Good morning. I'm living in my van currently, and I'm enjoying every bit of it. Every bit of it. Every bit of it. I am. important to be able to exercise like this. I can't see who. I'm all tied up. Who is with me? I don't know. Let me go over here and grab the phone and see. Yeah. Andronactylus. How are you? I'm well, considering all the shit that I'm going through. By food poisoning, I had my kidneys were damaged, so that's why I'm all bloated. So it's hitting me again. My kidneys are starting to, but I'm good. I'll be good. That's why I'm all bloated. But I'm fighting it like a motherfucker. Like the dove says peace, right? So how you doing, man? Hopefully you're well. But yeah, see. Ugh. So yeah, I had nephrosis of the kidneys when I got that damn salmonella. But I'm doing pretty well, considering. I'm doing my exercises here. This is how because I've got to be fit to go. Oh, okay. Just got off work. Well, welcome aboard, man. Welcome aboard. So, yeah. So that's what we're doing. Hope the stream is okay. I got the Wi-Fi going over there. But that's what we're doing, baby. That is hard to do right there. For someone that's 64 years old, that hurts like a motherfucker to do that. I might as well use these seatbelts, right? Might as well use the seatbelts. They serve no other purpose. They do not serve any other. They don't serve any other purpose. Get back over here. Right there. Something like that. So that's what I'm doing. I guess that's what I'm doing. Midnight. So you have the graveyard shift with the ghouls and the monsters and the hakapukas. Oh, the hudafolk. Hudafolk. The hudafolk. Then the Holder folk. That's what they call them. Oh, Hunter. Oh, yeah, those kidneys are. I'm battling. I'm all bloated. So, today I go back to the hospital. So, yeah. How you doing, Hunter? Yeah, food poisoning. Nephrosis of the kidneys is not good. Good one. But I am getting my exercise. Nothing's going to stop me. I'm going to North Carolina to see my friends. Mandela Springs, North Carolina. Mandela Chocolate. It's got a chocolate factory on the side of a fucking mountain. Like Willy Wonka. That's what I'm doing. But thank you for coming aboard. Coming aboard Captain Mugbeard ship. So, I'm all tied up. I love it. So this stretches out the tendons, the muscles, where oxygen can get in the muscles efficiently doing this first thing in the morning, and it hurts like a mother. It hurts. It hurts. But it's beneficial. Very beneficial. I eat a lot of bananas. Bananas are really good for you. do eat a lot of bananas. I also eat a lot of junk, like candy. But I enjoy candy. I do. Not the best damn choice, but I enjoy it. However, so I'm lightly working the muscles, like 10 pounds full. It's not much. Hello, this is Art Linkletter. Art Linkletter here. Remember him, Art Linkletter, the old guy who used to do exercise. Art Linkletter. Remember Art Linkletter? I do. It's time to wash the clothes in the lake today. The lake water, the tannin water, gets your clothes so nicely clean. So that's what I shall do. So who is Art Linkletter? I'll show you who Art Linkletter is. I will. Art Linkletter. Who is Art Linkletter? Well, hang on just a jiffy. Hang on a jiffy lube. I'll get this phone. I've got so many. Wait, no, I'll get that phone. I've got phones coming to the Azula. I paid $300 a month for the Dawn thing. Chapstick. Videos of Art Linkletter.
Videos of Art Linkletter.
There he is. Pretty cool dude.
He raises a fundraiser. Gee, that's wonderful. Who's he raising funds for?
Himself.
That guy was cool. Art Linkletter.
Your mother or your dad?
Both of them.
Hey, you're a diplomat, are you?
No, I'm a Catholic Baptist.
What a guy.
With Thanksgiving and all, we're supposed to be
That is
thankful.
Art Linkletter.
I'm an American.
Ah, you are an American.
And who's the other guy? There's another guy. I'm trying to remember him. But he lost his kid. He lost his children. A father's worst nightmare. Yeah, I can relate to that. I sure can.
It was just after dawn on the 4th of October, 1969, when the telephone rang in a quiet kitchen in Holmby Hills, California. The woman who picked it up was the wife of one of the most familiar voices in America. For more than 2 decades, that voice had walked into millions of homes through the radio and the television. People trusted
I
it.
could relate
People
to that.
loved it.
He lost his
And on
children.
that particular morning, that voice was about to receive the kind of news that no human being is ever ready to hear. Her name was Lois. Her husband's name was Art Linkletter, and the voice on the other end of the line was telling her that their 20-year-old daughter, Diane, had just fallen from the window of a 6th-floor apartment in West Hollywood. She was already gone. Now, if you grew up in America in the 1950s or 1960s, the name Art Linkletter is probably already calling up something in your memory. A face, a smile. A row of children sitting on stools, swinging their legs, ready to say the most surprising things. Maybe a Sunday afternoon at your grandmother's house, the television playing in the background. That warm, familiar voice asking a 6-year-old what she wanted to be when she grew up. He was, for a very long stretch of the American century, simply part of the furniture of daily life. And yet, behind that warm public face, there was a story almost no one knew in full. A story that began on a doorstep in a small Canadian prairie town in 1912. A story that would carry him through poverty and the open road of the Great Depression, through wartime radio booths, through the golden age of television, through friendship with Walt Disney himself, through one of the longest marriages in the history of American show business, and through two losses so deep that a lesser man would not have survived them. He almost reached 100 years old. He missed that mark by less than 2 years. And in those 97 years and 10 months, he lived not one life, but something closer to 4 or 5, stacked one on top of the other. So settle in. Pour yourself something warm. Because to really understand what happened in that Holmby Hills kitchen on that October morning, we have to go all the way back to the beginning. To a doorstep in a town called Moose Jaw in the summer of 1912. The exact circumstances of his birth were never made entirely public during his lifetime, and most of what we know comes from his own later accounts in his autobiography, Confessions of a Happy Man, published in 1960. According to what he told that book, and what he told interviewers over the decades, he was born on the 17th of July, 1912, in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, Canada. His biological parents, for reasons that were never fully explained to him, were not able to keep him. He was, while still an infant, taken in by a local couple named Fulton John Linkletter and Mary Metzler Linkletter. They gave him a name. They gave him a home. They gave him, eventually, the only family he would ever know. Fulton Linkletter was an evangelical preacher, a man by every account of strong faith and modest means. He was not a wealthy man. He was not a famous man. He was a man who believed in hard work, plain speech, and the duty of one human being to another. He looked at the baby in his arms, and he decided that this would be his son. The family did not stay long in Moose Jaw. By the time the boy was old enough to remember anything, they had moved across the border into the United States, and eventually they settled in San Diego, California. It was there, in that Southern California sunshine, that the boy who had been left on a Canadian doorstep grew into a young man. San Diego in the 1920s was a different kind of place than today. Smaller, quieter. The Navy was there, the harbor was there, but the city had not yet become the sprawling metropolis it would later be. For a boy from a poor family, life was a matter of small jobs, small economies, and a great deal of imagination. He sold newspapers on the street. He worked at various times in a variety of small jobs that a teenage boy could find in a coastal town during the late 1920s.
We're listening.
And then, in 1929, the world fell apart. The stock market crashed. The Great Depression began, and the young Art Linkletter, like millions of other young Americans, found himself in a country where nothing seemed certain anymore. He was 16 years old. He had finished high school, and he made a decision that, looking back, seems almost impossibly bold for a teenager. He hit the road. He became, in the language of that era, a hobo. He rode the freight trains. He worked his way across the country, doing whatever odd jobs he could find. He slept sometimes under bridges. He slept sometimes in the open fields. He saw, in those years, an America that most of us today only know from old black and white photographs and the pages of John Steinbeck novels. He used to tell in his later years the kinds of stories from that period that sound almost like tall tales. The cold nights, the hungry mornings, the kindness of strangers, and the cruelty of others. The way a young man with nothing in his pockets could still somehow find his way from California to Florida and back again. Some of those stories he repeated so many times across so many decades that the details became polished, almost theatrical. But the basic outline of them is consistent with what other young men getting up. He kept talking. He kept showing up for the family that remained. He kept somehow finding the strength to face cameras and microphones and audiences, and to be, again and again, the warm, smiling Art Linkletter that the country wanted him to be. The last years of Art Linkletter's life were, by every available account, quieter than the years that had spent time with the children who were still living, with the grandchildren and great-grandchildren who came to visit. He still gave the occasional interview. He still, when his health permitted, made the occasional public appearance. But the pace was slower. The world had largely moved on from the era in which he had been one of its central figures, and he, having lived long enough to see the whole arc of his own career play out from beginning to end, was no longer chasing it. In those final years, the people who interviewed him in his home in Bel Air or in Holmby Hills almost always came away with the same impression. He was sharp. He was funny. He was, at 95 and 96 and 97 years old, still recognizably the same man whose voice had walked into American living rooms in 1945. The hair was white now, the face was lined, but the smile was the same. The interest in the person sitting across from him was the same. He still, even at the end of a long century, treated each person who came to talk with him as if that person were the only person in the world. He talked, in those interviews, about a great many things. About his early years, about Lois, about Walt Disney, about the Disneyland opening, about the offer he claimed Disney had once made him and that he had famously turned down, about his children, including the ones who were no longer with him, about his anti-drug work, which he still defended in essentially the same terms he had used in 1970, about his faith, about his sense, more pronounced in his old age, that a life is measured not by what you accomplish, but by who you love and who loves you back. Yeah. He also, in those last interviews, often talked about getting old. He had been talking about it for years by then, ever since Old Age is Not for Sissies had been published in the late 1980s. He liked to point out that the people who fear old age the most are almost always young people who have never tried it. He said more than once that getting old was the best revenge against the people who had once told him he would never amount to anything. He said that staying curious, staying active, staying interested in other human beings was the only real fountain of youth that he had ever found. It is worth, for a moment, taking those statements seriously, rather than dismissing them as the kind of inspirational tape recording that famous old people are expected to produce. He had lived through the Great Depression on the freight trains. He had built a career from nothing in the rough early days of network broadcasting. He had stood in front of 70 million Americans on the opening day of Disneyland. He had lost a daughter under circumstances that almost no parent ever has to face. He had lost a son a decade later. He had lost his eldest child in his 90s. And he was still here, smiling at the journalist across the table, asking the journalist how his own family was doing. That kind of staying power is not, in the end, a trick. It is not a performance. No, it is, whatever you want to call it, a real thing. On the 26th of May, 2010, Arthur Gordon Linkletter died at his home in Bel Air, California. He was 97 years old. He had been born in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan in 1912, the year the Titanic sank. He had died in California in the second decade of the 21st century. The arc of his life had spanned almost a full century, from the world of horse-drawn wagons and gas-lit streets to the world of smartphones and the early internet. The tributes came in immediately. Television networks ran retrospectives. The newspapers ran long obituaries. Old colleagues, old guests, old friends spoke about what he had meant to them. Disneyland flew its flag at half-staff. The American broadcasting industry, in the formal way that industries do these things, took its hat off to one of the men who had helped invent it. And in Holmby Hills, in the house that he and Lois had lived in for so many decades, the widow he left behind was now 96 years old herself. She had been his wife for 74 years and 6 months. She had married him when she was 22. She was now nearly an entire century into her own life. She had buried 3 of their 5 children. And now, For the first time since 1935, she was alone. Friends and family members who visited her in the months after Art's death described her in much the way they had always described her: quiet, steady, gracious. Grieving, certainly, but in the way that a person of her generation and her temperament grieves, which is to say, privately, and without any expectation that the rest of the world owes her a performance of her pain. She lived after his death for another 1 year and 5 months. She did not return to the public eye in any significant way. She did not give long interviews. She did not write a memoir. She simply lived in the way that very old people often do, quietly, with the daily company of family members and caregivers, in a house that had now contained more than half a century of her family's history. Lois Linkletter died on the 10th of October 2011. She was 96 years old. She had been born in 1915, and she had lived long enough to see the entire 20th century from start to finish, and to walk more than a decade into the 21st. She'd outlived her husband by 1 year and 5 months. She had outlived 3 of her 5 children. She had outlived almost every contemporary she had ever known. The 2 surviving Linkletter children, Dawn and Sharon, were now the keepers of the family story. The grandchildren and the great-grandchildren had spread out across the country and beyond. The house in Holmby Hills, the home where so much of this story had taken place, would eventually pass out of family hands, as houses do. The objects in it, the photographs, the books, the small everyday things that fill any long life, would be sorted and distributed and remembered. And what, in the end, is the story we have just told? It is, on one level, the story of an American century, refracted through the life of a single person. The Great Depression, the Second World War, the golden age of radio, the arrival and dominance of television, the opening of Disneyland, the cultural upheaval of the 1960s, the drug panics, the Watergate years, the Reagan years, the slow drift of American broadcasting from the warm intimacy of the 1950s into the louder, faster, more cynical saw the smile. The country largely did not see what was behind the smile. That is not because he was hiding anything. That is because the language his generation spoke, the language in which a host of a national television show was supposed to speak, was a language of warmth and reassurance, not a language of public confession. It is, on a third level, a story about the limits of what any parent can do. Art Linkletter, in the years after Diane's death, devoted enormous public energy to the proposition that parents could, through information and vigilance and the right kind of moral seriousness, protect their children from the dangers of the world. It is a beautiful idea. It is, in many specific ways, a true and useful idea. And yet, the very same man who became its most visible advocate also lost a son to a tragic accident 11 years after he had lost his daughter. Accidents do not respond to anti-drug speeches. Disease does not respond to vigilance. The world contains, in addition to the dangers we can fight, an enormous amount that we cannot. And it is, on a fourth level, a love story. Art and Lois were married in 1935 and stayed married until his death in 2010. That is 74 years and 6 months. There are not very many marriages of that length in any children, and eventually
Now, to break through the endorphin barrier, that means that if it is me, it is up to me. Even if I move one finger all day, I've accomplished something. So let's go on down to the lake, shall we? Because I want to. And I just do what I want to do all the time. have no filter. I have a little folly. I'm very serious when it comes to certain things. And the music stops. Go up there in the galley, or wherever it is, we call it the galley. The galley. I am truly bloated big time. What happens when your kidneys just do not work like they should? I will be just marvelous. Been through a lot worse shit than this. I have. Well, regardless of how I feel, I will look good, even if I don't feel good. I will look good, even if I don't feel good. We'll look good. Right, too? Shall we? I'm gonna shave. I am. Because I want to. Oh, the old tobacco. And then we got a paddle. Paddle and paddle. I tell you, your kidneys are not working. The fluid has to go somewhere, right? They're working, just not efficiently. But I'm going to kick its ass today. Because I don't give up. I don't. I'm like the bullfrog. It's in the mouth of the bird, right? I reach around there and I grab him by the neck and I'm choking him out. He will let go sooner. That's who I am. The stork who reaches down there thinks he has me. He's getting ready to swallow me. I reach over there and grab him by the neck. That's who I am, baby. Welcome to my world. So we're going for a paddle. Yes. It's been bad, boys and girls. You're getting a paddle. You are. Bad boys and girls. You're getting a paddle. It's your mama and papa should have gave you when you were younger. Right? Right, so bugs. That's what I'm going to get, bug repellent. But I don't like that bug repellent. I'd rather get bit by bugs. To know that I'm alive and I'm awake. Bugs. Right, buggy. So, who else is with us this morning? I guess you're just flying up there, flying up above somewhere. All three of you. Righto. Cheerios. Oh, tobacco. The tobacco. Yeah. So I do have a plan, and I gotta put it into fruition. Make it happen. With this van, I'm gonna extend out about another 6 feet on the back, make it bigger, taller back there. It's gonna be a sight to see. Thing is, when I make a turn, I don't want to be kicking them because it's going to be past the back you know, axle. I have to figure that out. I've got it figured out. I'll taper it so it'll look like a big green mile, gigantic. So we got 5 of you. Well, welcome aboard, Captain Mugbeard. My kidneys are not doing too well. I got what do they call that? Salmonella. 5 days in the hospital. Yeah, that was interesting. But so my kidneys are now somewhat compromised. I had nephrosis kidneys, which part of your kidneys just turn into rock, not rock and roll. Always got time for a song, right? Maybe a dance or two. A song and a dance. I say. Where's me slide? But Captain, the men were hungry. They ate your slide, Captain. They did. When I wake up in the morning time, lately, been a little fuzzy, you see. A little fuzzy was a bear. Was a bear. Got that guy. There is no bug alive that is faster than I am. No bug alive that is faster than my quick muscle reflexes. The bugs are bad. We're going to get away from the bugs. They're bad. Voila. Look at my world. We're going to drive in the lake because I want to. But first, I got to get some stuff back here. the land of the Hakapukas. So, in order, if you're feeling gloomy and doomy, you got to kick it on out. If you don't kick it out, it'll kill you. So, I could feel doomy and gloomy, but I won't. Not at all. I don't see any comments. That makes me feel very alone. Very alone. If you could comment every once in a while, I would appreciate it immensely. I don't need to feel any more alone than I am, to be honest with you. It's up to you.